There are a lot of things to think about when you're photographing in woods. We walk into these wood settings and they're big and they're beautiful and there's so many details, and there's not only a lot of height to witness, but there's also a lot of depth. And it can be really difficult to identify what specifically you want to photograph. Things that make sense in person don't necessarily photograph as well in a camera. So when you're approaching a scene, you want to take a look at the width of things. If it's a really wide scene, sure, use your wide angle lens, but maybe make sure that you have something that's going to guide the viewer's eye through the frame. So things that would work would be a path or a boardwalk, or just some sort of natural clearing where there's some negative space in the middle of the frame that helps carry the image. When you're photographing in the forest and you want to try to get a little bit of variety with your images, it helps to take a different perspective. So if you have the opportunity to get above the canopy, maybe on like a canopy tour or something where there's a nice high lookout, definitely take that opportunity because it gives you a unique perspective. The other option is to photograph looking up. So I would take my camera to the base of an interesting tree and then crouch down and maybe shoot up along the trunk, getting a nice long depth of field, maybe shoot around an f/16 or something even closer to an f/22. And that's going to allow you to get a totally unique perspective, looking up at the branches, seeing the way it branches out, and really getting a nice rich color of those backlit leaves. So one of the nice bonuses of photographing in the woods is when you come around a corner and you see a beautiful vista like the one that we have right here. So when I'm shooting a vista, something that I want to remember is that you need something in the foreground to draw the viewer's eye through the frame. What looks nice to a passing viewer wouldn't necessarily make the strongest photograph. So by adding a point of interest in the foreground, you're going to really improve your images. Right now, because it's a pretty deep scene, I want to shoot with the maximum depth of field that's available to me. I'm actually going to start shooting at an aperture of f/14, so small opening, bigger depth of field. So in the chapter Working Around Uncontrollable Conditions, I talk about what to do if you're in a beautiful location but the light doesn't really do anything for you. So right now I'm on the edge of this beautiful lake and the sky is pretty overcast, the lighting is kind of flat and even. So even though it's a gorgeous location, it's not the most interesting lighting conditions. So in this case, what I'm going to do is photograph without including the sky in my image, or at least trying to minimize the sky as much as possible. I'm going to make it about the form and the shape of the trees, the line of these cattails, little details like that. And the fact that it's overcast, all of these greens are really going to pop and they're going to look really beautiful. So we'll find a shot even though the skies aren't ideal. When you find yourself in really dense woods, the impulse to shoot with a wide-angle lens to capture the full scope of the scene is a generally good impulse, but if you want to try to narrow the field down a little bit more to show the viewer where to look and make things feel a little bit less chaotic, I recommend shooting with a longer millimeter lens, something in the range of 100 to 300 millimeters. What that's going to do is visually compress the distance and sort of work through that chaos for the viewer, making it into a more understandable, easier to read pattern of trees, branches, bark, that kind of thing. When we're shooting in the woods, it's really easy to get overwhelmed and spend our time focusing on the larger scene. Something that you can do to sort of refresh and get back to the basics is focus on the little details around you. You'll find things like interesting patterns of leaves, random wildflowers, nice moss like this on a fallen log. Take the moment to go through and photograph those little details, and it's going to help tell more of a story of each location that you visit. So it's pretty rainy in Brown County Park right now, but it's creating this beautiful fog effect. So I had to pull over just now because I love the way that this road looks, the way that the fog kind of combines with the fresh blacktop, and it makes it so that you can't really see what's what. So I'm going to photograph this real quick, and then I'll show you guys the resulting pictures, but I think it's going to be really cool. So now I'm standing about 20 feet away from where I was just a moment ago, and it always pays to look behind you. Whenever you think something looks beautiful, getting the 180-degree view, you're going to get something totally different and maybe equally incredible. So right now, because of the rain, we have this wild fog rolling in, which is creating an effect that I will refer to in the book as receding layers of tone. It's one of my favorite atmospheric effects, and that's basically where the closer something is to the subject or to the viewer, the darker it will appear in gradients of color. So you have these nice gradients receding back as a result of the fog. They apparently call this park the Smokies of the Midwest, and right now you can kind of see why.